Okay, this is a test run. We'll see if we've got any connection or not. Quite simply in the house, but I'm not sure if the internet's just got tanking here at the moment because it's getting into tourist season or not. So if it goes crap, please let me know in the comments. Yeah, the first thing I want to talk about is the new YouTube rules, which I found okay. The 10,000 rule I can understand because the subscribers up to that aren't really an issue. What I mean is that your number of views are not going to make you any money anyway. You're not going to make any money at about 10,000 subscribers anyway. You'd be lucky to make, well, what's the threshold? I know it used to be $100. If it still is, you wouldn't have actually made $100 anyway. So don't worry about it. What does concern me though, is it going to force everything mainstream? Because like these videos where we sit and have a chat and talk about topical things that people really want to talk about, that isn't really mainstream, you know, in the sense that it's not selling a car, it's not selling advertising, it's not selling real estate, insurance, or anything else. Are we seeing YouTube becoming more like the TV that everyone sort of moved away from? Because if it is, it's going to destroy its own industry. I know I do these predominantly for giving advice and sharing my experiences. It's not about the money. But what I will say though is in the last week I've seen a drop of nearly $20 for YouTube's losses in this sort of advertiser crisis. And the problem I see it from my perspective is I've worked with enough corporations to understand that these guys in the corporations are predominantly just yes men. They will follow anybody else's lead. They will not make a informed decision. They will not say this doesn't make any sense or whatever. They'll just go with the flow because it becomes personal in the sense that they're more concerned about themselves than they are the business. And that's the big problem. Because at the end of the day, if you're only going to make money for yourself and a career for yourself, you're not really thinking of the business. And it is a big corporate issue. Nobody really wants to talk about it because that doesn't fit into the whole corporate system, actually dealing with problems. And I do think that's the downside on this. It may affect creators, especially in the Philippines niche. The reason I say that is because it's a very small niche. What does the average Philippine vloggers subscribers buy? Is the other thing. You know, if they're not buying a lot of products, then obviously advertisers aren't really going to be that interested. But also in the broader sense, when you start looking at, say, people that are dealing with talking about their experiences with abuse, cancer, all these other things which are topics that should get supported, advertisers may turn away from them simply because it's a topic that doesn't sell them a new Honda. You know, that's the big problem. That's the worrying thing, because the whole thing with the Google, in my viewpoint, even though I don't actually agree that they do, they try to promote freedom of speech when it seems that it's more like show me the money. Yeah, that's it. 2006 Crusader, 2006. Why do people turn away from TV? Too many commercials. YouTube will face the same problem. You know, the funny thing, you mentioned that. I noticed in Spain this week that, because I don't watch TV too much, but there's that much extra advertisements now that it doesn't sync, if you know what I mean, with the TV shows, that they're squeezing extra advertising where you normally found that, I mean, going back, say, 10 years, the TV shows would cut off at a moment, and then you would get the commercial, and then it would drop in naturally. Now they seem to be cut off mid-sentence, where you're like, hello, where are we going now? And it's like off to watch advertising. And I do think that's the problem. It's losing its identity. And I do think the problem with YouTube, it was in a very, very good position, in the sense that all your Murdochs and whatever weren't in the position to control it. And they've lost that, because what's going to happen now is all your big media groups are going to play on it. They're going to use it for their own advantage. And that's the big concern, because every time something flags up now, it's going to be front page news, because let's face it, the newspapers don't like things like YouTube. The big TV shows don't like it, because at the end of the day, it's pulling everything away from mainstream media. And I think they need to look at how to regulate the system in a fairer way. I don't think it's going to help to turn around and go, okay, well, we don't want our advertising on this. We only want our adverts on people that talk about Honda cars, for example. It's like, well, that's very specific. Because at the end of the day, when you're watching any TV show, it doesn't have to be about a Honda car. What happens is these adverts appear, and you go, oh, an advert, oh, I'm looking at buying a new car, but you're watching something completely different. And I think this is where things could become very skewed, in the sense that the stuff people watch becomes too relevant to what the advertisers want and not what the actual people watching it want, to the point people start to switch off. And I know some people on about going to, what do you call, like fan bases and stuff, and asking subscribers for money, because I've lost $20 this week roughly. Yes, as I've always found, my personal thing with dealing with these big companies like Google or YouTube, they don't tell you where you've lost it. They just deduct it. They don't inform you why it's gone down. They just do it. And that's one of the big problems with corporations, is that's the way they function. You're just a little guy. I do wonder if Twitch is going to move forward a bit more now. I think there's a good chance, because Twitch is owned by Amazon, it could tweak itself into the limelight a bit more. So I'll wait and see on that. But yeah, that's one thing that's bugging me at the moment. Is the fact is, I don't think this channel is too controversial, but I'm more concerned about people that are doing channels about very difficult subjects. They're a bit touchy, that suddenly find they're getting zero income from it. Now, although you may say, well, from an advertiser's point of view, it's not my problem. But at the same time, what's the conversion rates? You know, when you sit and watch any TV show in the TV, advertising, it doesn't matter what it is. So when this sort of thing starts to happen, if you're saying, well, we don't really want to talk about this subject, you can't talk about politics, you can't talk about abuse of any kind, you can't talk about maybe something that may not be, maybe too sensitive for a specific product with a specific company, etc. You start getting down to the point where everything is awesome, you know, where everybody just talks about stuff for the sake of talking about it and not actually saying anything because they don't want to upset anybody. And I think that's a very bad way to go. And that's my main concern, because YouTube's been quite broad. You know, doesn't matter what your interest is or subject, there is a broad spectrum of people available to watch it, listen to it, and understand it. You don't have to like it. I mean, that's a good thing about YouTube. You just go on to something else. And I do think, you know, it's gone a bit too far now. But like I said, I understand it from advertisers, but I don't think advertisers really understand their own people that are buying from them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have lost the whole TV market. The TV market is going down the chute like no tomorrow. because they've oversubscribed it. They made advertising cheaper, made more adverts, and people go, I'm not watching this junk anymore. I'll buy the DVD. You know, it's gone that way. I really don't want that to happen to YouTube. I really don't. But we'll wait and see. So beyond that, what else has been going on this week? Oh, one of the things I did notice is somebody brought it to my attention that it does look like a certain Australian guy related to Ladyboys has been buying his YouTube traffic. I can confirm that. I did look at the stats using Social Blade, and I would say it does seem, on some day, in my personal opinion, that there seems to be a rounded figure of about 50 subscribers a day for a period of time. You may go it's above it, below it, but think logically. If you added 50 today, you lost 3 subscribers, then it would show 47, and then tomorrow you got 4 new ones, it would show 54. So when you look along the line, it averages out about 50 a day, which just isn't normal traffic. But in my personal opinion, I do think it doesn't look natural. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, that's it. 2006 Crusader. If they get too big, they lose focus. YouTube, Yahoo. Well, the thing is, once you get to a certain size, you're no longer the product you began with, because you start getting people that buy into the business. You start getting auditors involved. You start looking at developing and expanding the business, which comes with specific criteria and contracts that are tied to that. So you start moving away from what you would want to what people are telling you need, and that's the big problem. I've come across it so many times, not in multimedia sense, but in other businesses. They started off with the right idea, and then over time, they've sort of lost control of their own businesses because the accountants and auditors and everything start taking control of it. The lawyers go, oh, that's a bit risque. And it starts watering down to a specific group, which media is these days. Now, I think that's what's happening with YouTube. It's getting watered down, and I do hope they move away from this, because I can see there being a big shift otherwise. I mean, myself, I don't really make a lot of money off YouTube anyway, but the whole point is, when you get the money there, I mean, for me, it pays my water bill, electric bill in the Philippines, and not a lot else. But at the same time, you put this stuff up there, and it's okay. But when somebody goes, oh, well, we're deducting it because we don't like something you've said on something, it's like, but that wasn't even that risque. That was just like something you would normally say. You start going, is it worth the hassle? And I mean, at the end of the day, that's the big question. Is it worth the hassle? You know, for me, I'll keep pushing videos, but I may end up on another platform at some point, because I do this for the sake of helping others. But at the same time, if I switched off my AdSense, would they still take the money? You know, at the end of the day, would they still advertise on it? Because at the end of the day, they're paying for my hosting. You start thinking, what? Yeah, 2006 Crusader, do a striptease act. Ask, but the answer is no. No. You may have noticed I'm recovering from the flu at the moment. I know a few of the guys have had a few illnesses this week as well. That's why I've been quite quiet. I did a few videos out earlier because I went for a walk, but yeah, I've been pretty sick this week. It's one of my kids brought it home from school, and I've been ill ever since. And then now it's going around the house. But I hope to be back up and running during the week. What else has been going on? Oh, a friend of ours got stopped for riding a motorbike here in Spain. It was here in Spain. If you don't, his vehicle was still on British plates, etc. It's €500 fine, and they seized the vehicle. So he's dealing with that at the moment. Rob Julian, how long did it take you to track 6,162 subscribers? I'd say, well, I don't know, probably about 2 years, I think. To be honest, I don't even follow it too much. People either listen or don't listen. That's the way I do it. But also, there's a broad spectrum on here because, like, I've started doing the Raspberry Pi stuff. Again, there's some guys that listen with the drone stuff. There's some guys for the Spanish stuff. Some guys for the Philippine stuff. So not everybody watches every video. So it's a very broad channel. So though it's a lot of subscribers, some people only, well, I'll say a lot of them only are interested in. Yeah, so it took about 2 years or so, I guess. Paul MacArthur, hi Matt, hi, how's it going? But the thing is not to focus on the subscribers, it's focusing on having good content. And I mean, like earlier, I had somebody give me grief over a Raspberry Pi video because I'd uploaded it and I can't, I'll be honest with you, I've got the biggest Mac screen you can buy and it sits next to a 32-inch monitor, so everything looks fine on my screen. But when I uploaded it, you couldn't read it, so I just left a load of abuse. Well, the thing is, it's like, okay, but the thing with doing the Raspberry Pi through the Mac, I need to reconfigure its monitor setting for its CLI, its command line interface. So, but that's what you get. You get some people give you abuse over something so stupid because, quite simply, it's not a case of just flicking a switch. It's something that you actually have to program into it manually. So I would say, Rob Julian, if I'll have a look at your channel if you've got a channel going. Send me a link to your channel, and I'll have a look at your channel while we're chatting as well. But the thing is, you will get a lot of flack if you're doing this YouTube stuff. And the funny thing is, if you look at the guys that give you flack and you look at their content, you're like, why are you complaining about anybody else? I've never found anybody that's actually like, whoa, yeah, okay, fair enough. Your video stuff's really fantastic or whatever. It's normally like they do videos of, I don't know, the America's Most Funny Videos, that sort of stuff. And it's just like, okay, I don't know what I'm competing with here. I don't even know why we're even arguing. But yeah, it does take time to get up to that sort of subscribers, but you'll get more abuse with it over time as well. That's the thing. It does increase. The more views you have, the more abuse you get on a daily basis. So how's everyone else doing this weekend? One of the things I will say, I do bring up networking quite common. Well, quite a lot. Is my wife did a course this week at college. Okay. Rob Julian, I'm not set up with a channel per se. I might set one up when I get to the Philippines in 4 years. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, you're welcome. See, in 4 years' time, a lot of things may have changed anyway. So you may find there's a completely different platform by then. I'd be pushing if I was in the Philippines right now is 360 video, because I don't see anybody doing it. So I could see that being one to just stick on the top of a jeepney and riding around with. Yeah. So yeah, networking. This is something, the Philippines, wherever, is networking up with the local community. Because one of the things I found in Spain, a lot of people sit within their own circles. What I mean is a lot of the expats, like here, they're in the Brit towns, the Brits mix with Brits, blah, blah, blah. But if you actually try and push into the other groups, particularly the Spanish, which you should be doing, there's a lot of benefit to it. I mean, April did a training course this week, and she's done her exam, and she's got a thesis she's got to write this week. Because she's already got her English teaching certificate, and she's already helped several other Spanish speakers pass some English exams. the colleges already asked her if she wants some work. They've already offered some work for that. The paperwork she's getting now, her qualification relates to helping at the school. It's like a teacher's assistant sort of role. Because we've seen it advertised, and I thought, you know what, just go for it. Because even if you don't go to do teaching assistants, the fact is you're spending some time with the people in the education system could be beneficial, and it already has. And that's one of the things I want to say, even in the Philippines, you never know who you're going to connect with. There's a lot of people I know from all walks of life, from the guy that does the vulcanizing, you know, changing the tires, to some friends of ours that are connected with some political people. You never know where things interlink, and that's why it's worth connecting with people on a regular basis, because it's gonna have, you know, you never know when the paths cross. That's a simple way of putting it. You never know when things are going to cross over. Where's the benefit? What's going to work for you? Yeah, 2006 Crusade. I would never start a channel before my business there is up and running, and probably never will. Don't want the attention. Hey, let's put it this way. Look at the crap I get relating to the Kohl Center. Oh, it never made that money. It's involved in criminal activity, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what are you guys on? You know, at the end of the day, I wouldn't sit there and say it if it wasn't true. I can't, you know, we paid for the building. You know, we've got, just on that building alone, there is, just on the computers, there's $250,000 pesos just on computer equipment, not including buying the building and renovating it. But whatever, you know, it made money. We still own the building, we still own the Kohl Center, etc. Yeah, I have a lot of trolls. Yeah, 2006 senior trolls. Yeah, you know, they're just crazy guys. Had a winter earlier today because last night. So I was saying, the thing is, some of these guys are bitter because I already earn what their pension will bring, and it's not me being arrogant or whatever. It's the fact is, when I'm sat like here now, where I'm not actually doing my 9 to 5 sort of work, I'm working on other projects. That's why people have heard for the last month I keep talking about the website stuff, because the website stuff plan. So once, yeah, it's already making money. I've already, this week I made 300 euros off the one website. The point being is, when you get it to a certain point, it starts becoming automated. It runs itself, and then you've got that money coming in every month, and then you move on to the next project, and then you're on to the next project, and you build it up. And that's what I've been doing. We look at the Philippines. We own our compound. It's already rented out. We have other apartments being renovated. We're already fully booked. We've got more people wanting to rent than we have space for. What is there to compete against? Because just the income in the Philippines, in all honesty, I earn a lot more. Well, sorry, I probably earn the equivalent of a lot of these guys' pensions already just in the Philippines. And that's why I assume the bitterness comes from that. It's like, I just don't know what the problem is. I really don't, because the whole point I try to do is say, look, it's possible for anybody to do this. If you sit there and work this stuff out, you can do this. It doesn't matter how small you start from, because a lot of the micro businesses will not generate huge incomes, but it generates an income. If you wake up every morning and there's $1 in your wallet every single day, that's $1 you didn't have before. And that's the way to look at it. So even if it's only $1, it's $1 extra a day. That's $1 less you need to earn that day from your other work. So once you get it up to $50, you may not need to go to work every day. And that's the whole thing about this. Is you turn around and focus on work, but having work done for you that puts money in your pocket without actually leaving the house. And that's what I've been focusing on for the last few years, and it works. I mean, I just spent last year NHS project, and I've earned good money. You know, at the end of the day, I've been sat here at home for what 10 months now, earning good money without having to leave the house. You know, obviously I do leave the house, but I don't have to leave the house. Working on projects. That's what you need, because at the end of the day, I could be in Spain, I could be in the Philippines, I could be in Germany, France, wherever, and that's what you want to be at. And I know it's very difficult to get companies to see that sometimes, but that's what you're aiming for, is to be doing the life you want to be leading. Because ultimately, I want to be breaking the binds of corporate life. I've done it. I've spent enough time in hotel rooms. I've spent enough time traveling around. And yes, they give you cars, they give you whatever, but at the same time, I want to be at home. You know, my daughter in the UK is now a teenager, going on to college now, and I missed a lot of her bringing up, because, well, some of it was the Philippines, but the rest of it is because of work. And I don't want the same happening with the two kids I have here in Spain, and that's why I changed the way I work. But the whole point is, a lot of companies will accommodate you if you have the right skills, because a lot of the stuff I do, there isn't many people that do it. There's a meeting last Friday relating to a company in the UK that wanted a very specific database set put together that is based on 1990s technology. So need, and they also know there's not many people who will do it. And they also know there's not many people who do it at my budget, because one of the big things I put forward is I'll do it for X amount because I'm sat in Spain. If you want me to come to the UK just to sit in your office and do exactly the same, you can pay nearly double. Yeah, the trolls are trolls. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it doesn't matter what channel you got, you're gonna get trolls anyway. A lot of things I look at with the trolls though as well, they have a lot of conflict in their own lives. And that's why I try not to focus on them too much, because quite simply, when you look at them, you're just like, whatever, you know, because that's what I'm saying. If you just go through some of the stuff they produce, it doesn't take much to go through it and go, okay, I can see there's other stuff going on in your head. I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to be a blunt of your anger or whatever. Do what you need to do. Yeah. So this week in Spain, I've been trying to focus on where we're going to go from here, because the website stuff's nearly finished. And I'm thinking, should I go into the UK for 2-3 months, or should I start building up the English stuff? Because like I said, with April went to the college last week, and they were like, oh, we can give you work. They have this thing called coffee English, which is basically, it's conversational English, where you meet for a coffee, and may not need to be a coffee, by the way, but it's basically conversational English for Spanish, where they sit and talk. But also there's a guy called Spanish Speaks, who's been teaching English in Spain for the last 18 years. There is a market for it here. See, like I was saying earlier, because one of the things I look at the English teaching, and it normally works around 20 hours a week. So if I get 20 hours a week at the right sort of money, I still hit €1,000 on that. Plus I have some money off things like the YouTube stuff that pays the bills in the Philippines. Then I have, you know, April will be making money, plus I've got my savings increasing, etc. You start to get to a point where you're ahead of the game. Because I know we went to the UK, the first thing you go, okay, we need a house. A house, £700 a month. Okay, so that's 700 plus, oh, there's poll tax, there's this, and you're already hitting £1,500 a month just to break even in the UK. Here in Spain, we're €1,200, I think now, a month, including private healthcare. So that's everything, 1,200 a month, which isn't bad going. So if April brought in 600 and I brought in 600 doing stuff beyond this, we'd be fine because I've got money building up in other things like the websites and stuff as well. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Does anybody else want to throw anything in the mix? It's all a bit quiet. You can chat away in the live chat, by the way. You don't have to just listen to me. Also helps me with my throat because I've got a very dry throat. It's all a bit quiet. Some days are like this, and then other days are really, really busy. No, no. Well, the Raspberry Pi stuff, I'm going to be doing more on that this week probably, because now it's out of the box again. I'm just trying to reconfigure the screen so I can get bigger text in the command line interface. I don't know what you call it on the Raspberry Pi or on the Mac or whatever. I call it CLI, which is a command line interface from my old college years. Yeah, Cody Williams. So you are just like radio to me, not used to talking to the radio. Yeah, I just talk it. Yeah, that's it. But the thing is, I do run out of things to talk about because it's not a lot goes. I mean, we live in a tourist town, and it's been, in all honesty, it's been very busy this week because a lot of people here on holiday now. Not exactly the bustling metropolis. It's more like where granddad and grandma take the grandkids on holiday. I just like it here because it's quiet. Because I've got to admit, I do like my peace and quiet. And right here, where we are, 99% of the time, there is no noise whatsoever. It just suits me. I like these old type of places because you can focus more. The biggest noise is probably my kids. I know it's certainly that in the blog. The noisiest kids in the blog, that's for sure. Matt Wilkie tour. Which tour is that? Tour of Spain or tour of their house? Yeah, 2006 to Matt Wilkie tour. Where would you like me to tour? Yeah, but the one thing this week is really killing me is this flu bug. I went to bed on Friday and I woke up, I went to bed on Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and I woke up on Saturday. Through the town. There is actually videos of the town already. I can't get the live stream video on my phone. That's what's frustrating because I'm gonna have to buy a new phone because the YouTube live thing doesn't work on my Android phone because I've got the Note 2 and it seems to need the Marshmallow version, which is version 6 of Android, which starts at what do you call it? Starts at Note 4. So I'd have to invest about £300 in a new phone. Tourist sites seeing your house. Funny enough, people do recognize me in the street sometimes. They do come up and say, "Oh, you're the guy from YouTube." That's happened to me a few times in the matter. There's a guy around the corner who's got some apartments. He did it to me. He said, "I know you. I know you. I've seen you on YouTube. You know, I'm just just getting out the van." I'm like, "Okay." He said, I know who you are." Same as there's another guy. Was at the Indian restaurant, and his wife was at the counter. I was just grabbing a takeaway, and his wife said, "Oh, do you live in Lamata?" "Yeah, I've been here a while." "Oh, you're the guy from YouTube. My husband watches your stuff." And then she dragged me over to meet her husband, and he's like, "That's the guy from YouTube." So, yeah, it does happen here because it's quite a small town. Population year is quite small. Although I did notice tonight, if you're into the old what do you call it, the ballroom dancing, the hall down the road was packed out. There must have been about 150 people in there dancing. I think you'd have to be over 60 to join probably, but well, I'll say that. I'm sure they would actually love some younger members in there. But the whole place was heaving. You know, there's people from everywhere. It's a lot busier than normal. There's a lot of activities go on, but you don't really see them unless you're out and about, because a lot of stuff in Spain, it's more a case you've got to know what's going on rather than it's advertised too much. I know with the hall, there's always stuff going on in there. They have bingo and all that sort of stuff. Not stuff I'm really into, honestly. But yeah, certainly stuff goes on a regular basis in there. It certainly gets busy. Because most of the people here are quite, well, they're all in their 60s, I suppose. I mean, there's not many of us that are under 40. Well, sorry, under 50. I say under 40 because I'm still 21. I've been 21 for some time now. But yeah, it's just one of those quiet places. But we've got the beach, got the nature park, got the town down the road, heading to Torrebecca, got all the big supermarkets and stuff, and the airports north and south of us. We've got Murcia Airport to the south, and Alicante Airport to the north. So it's good. It's good, and I do think the Brexit stuff will actually help reduce the house pricing, which may actually end up with me actually buying a house here long term. I'm still and ahhing on it anyway because of the taxes involved with the purchase. Giving the state 10% for nothing is, I begrudge doing it. I begrudge giving the state money for nothing. But yeah, welcome to Spain. But then again, I'm sure if we bought a place here, we could rent it out for the next 40 years. There'll always be somebody want it. The real estate agent I met recently, he said he's got 50 people waiting for properties in this area for long-term rents. So there's a market there, certainly, for long-term rentals. It's just that the problem, like I said, the 10% tax puts you off actually making a purchase here. Because, you know, otherwise the rest of it's not too bad, you know, because get a 2-bedroom apartment here from about 50,000. 2006 Crusader. Matt, you agree with me that the houses in the Philippines are way overpriced? Are you on about new builds? Of course they are. They're way overpriced. You're talking, they stick like $1 million pesos in a property that costs $250,000 to construct, including buying the land. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why we buy land and just build ourselves. We build modular. Some people don't like it. Some people get it. Because at the end of the day, I build for what the market will pay for. There's no point having plasma TVs, aircon in every room, etc., because the market rate for the average person cannot afford that. It's a bit like condos. When you look at condos and they go, oh, it's 20,000 a month rent. It's like, okay, but the average call center agent is probably making between 13 and 16,000 pesos a month, and they're going to be the predominant ones using that in the IT parks and stuff. So you end up with like 4 or 5 of them sharing a room. It's just not. It's not great money. I do understand, like with the Koreans and stuff and the Japanese, because they will overpay. We've had this with bankers. You know, you hire not the banker as in like from the bank, but from boats. Because what I found was with the boats is we used to pay 3,000 pesos for the entire vessel, where the Koreans and Japanese will pay 3,000 or 4,000 per person when you can actually get 16 people on the boat. So we then started struggling to get the boats because the Koreans and Japanese just go, okay, we'll pay that. They do so. But then again, if you got money to burn, or it's daddy's money, what's it matter? Cody Williams, they seem to skyrocket just since I started being interested for the last 5 years for rentals. What used to be 5 to 10K is now 15 to 25, just in 5 years from what I have seen. It depends on the areas. You also got to look at the real estate market. The real estate market never has a downturn. If you look at it, they always inflate the prices. They've never had a property reduction. It's always going up. But you'll see that some of these properties sit there for like 6 years because they're not selling. But it is depending on the area. It really is. As Cody Williams, see some places for sale that are asking 5 million when 5 years ago they were asking for less than 2 for exactly the same problem. Yeah, because it's speculation. See, if the real estate agents, developers, sorry, if they turn around and say a house is worth 5 million. So the people that own the properties already, the existing ones, will turn around and go, okay, my house is older, but it's in the same development. It's just in the last block they built. They stick money on it, and that's why you'll see in their brochures they'll go, oh, guaranteed 30% increase in price or 50% increase in price per year, because they're just making it up. It's not driven by demand. It's just they're making it up. I could understand in some areas, like if you're downtown in Makati or somewhere where there's going to be a market drive because it's around the BPO and business industries. But in a lot of areas, they just make it up because there isn't enough market there that actually stimulates it. It's not as if you've suddenly got a major construction boom or economic boom that's driving it. It's just, we'll put a figure on it and you just keep buying into it. And the thing is, as an OFW, a lot of them buy into it because they think it's a good investment, because it's an easy investment. You're being told you're guaranteed a return on it. You're being told it's good. It's great. It's great. Where myself, as soon as somebody tells me it's great or something, I go, well, why? Why is it suddenly so great? What's so good about this? Let me have a look at this first. Like Dubai. I've got a friend who lost £350,000 on property in Dubai. And he would have had the same sales pitches as the people in the Philippines. How great the investment potential is, because it's based on speculation. 2006 I would never buy a condo. I do not trust the way they built. You don't have to live in it. If you've got somebody that'll rent it, you don't have to live in it. It's just going to be a good investment. Yeah, I would buy a condo if it was the right price. And honestly, if it was the right price and I already had somebody move into it, I would consider it. But I know friends that there's like 16 vacant properties on their floor. You sit there going, well, how can this be a good investment? It's a ghost town. All it is, it's just people being forced to pay off properties they can't afford to live in. It's the US, UK housing boom. Live in it. I'm not one for condo living. I live in an apartment here in Spain, but it's not a high rise. We do have, it's like living in a house, we just don't have a garden. That's about it, at the end of the day. But I wouldn't live in a high rise unless it had some major facilities and was all singing, all dancing. I wouldn't live in there. But that's a personal preference. It's just not for me. I mean, when I lived in Hong Kong, we had a nice high-rise apartment there, because between the apartments, there's a restaurant, swimming pool. It had a lot of facilities there. But would I do it now? The answer is no. It's not. It's just not for me. I like looking out to the countryside and stuff. I'm more out of the city living. But I don't knock people that do it, because I understand that people have to live in the city, and sometimes I get stuck in these tower blocks an example of that was the Premier Inn Hotel in Glasgow. It's actually a converted high-rise block, so I think it was on the 12th floor, because you go up so many floors and then you lose the internet, but it's just a hotel in a tower block. Yeah, it is what it is. It's basic living, but because you've got those communal areas that nobody cares about, they're not really maintained too well. I know you do get some places that do look after them, but at the same time, then you're paying a lot more for people to maintain them. Where if you had a house, then because it's your space, you're going to maintain your own space. So, yeah, horses for courses, I suppose. But for me, I'm not a fan of it. I can understand why some people do it, and I can understand economically why it makes sense. When you look at the shanties, for example, in Manila, you see the majority of places are all on one level. So if they were actually put into blocks, a lot of those shanties would actually clear up a lot of space because they're all at ground level. So something like that would make sense, but they don't have the money to build the blocks either, and a lot of them are squatters, etc., etc. So yeah, it's very difficult to deal with that. Yeah, 20 to 30 minutes outside of a city is nice. Yeah, that's it. I mean, we live in Lamata. When we're in the Philippines, Minglanilla, we're about 30 minutes. Yeah, about 30 minutes from SM Mall, probably about 45 minutes from Ayala, and that suits us. There's enough road dust at that distance. You know, it's nice there because we can head south to the coast. We can be in like Mobual in about an hour, etc. And you know, you're just out of the city enough to not have too much city living and not excess crime. But at the same time, you've still got access to the hospitals, the big malls, cinemas, etc. Yeah, so yeah, I agree with you. 2006 Crusader. Nice to be about 20, 30 minutes outside because you've got the best of both worlds then, you know, in my opinion. Because there was a guy who had a motorbike accident. I can't remember who it was, and I apologize, I can't remember his name. But his foot was mangled and his toes were all twisted. And this is out in Luzon. He's quite far out. And he went to like the local hospital and they stitched it and they sort of obscured his toes quite badly. So he went into Manila to another hospital to get it fixed because it was in quite a bad way. And the doctor there was asking if he'd stitched it himself because it was so bad. He wouldn't believe it that this was actually a doctor out at one of these provincial hospitals that had done it because it was all twisted and that to undo it and redo it, you know, is a real mess. But that's one of the things in the Philippines. If you're too far outside, it does get a bit World War II movie surgery type. You know, it's there's not a lot of resources in those places. I do think the Turkish actually increased the investment and stuff, but I'm not sure what difference it makes because even in Minglanilla, Minglanilla has hit the news a few times relating to deaths at the hospital. 2006 Crusader and then enough land so you don't get bothered by your neighbor's karaoke. Yeah, I agree with it. I mean, the problem we have is Fiesta. I'm always out of there. I'm normally overseas when it's Fiesta because you can hear the Fiesta for a mile and a half. Because we end up where you lay in bed and you got the windows vibrating from different directions because there's 3 different sets of music playing, completely different music, bouncing the whole room around. Your eyeballs are rattling around in your head. You know, it's like a ping pong ball just floating around it's just bouncing around in there because there's so much noise. It's not music, it's noise because they're distorting each other. They're trying to outdo each other, and it's just like I can't sleep. Yeah, I can't bow, doctor. No, this is actually the doctors in the hospitals because a lot of the clinics and hospitals, they lack resources. So you can get there and there's no bandages and stuff. And it's not the first time I've heard of somebody having some really bad problems because of the medical care. And I'm not saying they do kill people, but it wouldn't surprise me, you know, that because the healthcare is so limiting, and I'm not sure if their experience and knowledge is that good, you know. Um, yeah, I certainly wouldn't use one of these remote places. I'd much rather pay for a taxi and just say, get me to the nearest real hospital. Not knocking them, because at the end of the day, they do serve a purpose, but I would rather spend the money and get myself out of Dodge. See, I mean, it's a bit like a friend of ours, Rob. Rob was over in Bohol, and he had this stomach infection that turned out to be an amoeba. But he's in one of these hospitals, and they've advised him not to drink. So he's dehydrated, and he's getting worse. And then a child in the next bed died next to him. So he, like me, it's like, I need to get out of here. So he got a tricycle, and they bought I think the ambulance come across on the ferry from Changhua, the hospital in Cebu. And they basically, he got down there in a tricycle. He's in a bad way, but he got himself down to the port, got into the ambulance, and they took him off to Changhua. And he got to the doctor, and they say, well, should I, you know, I need to drink, you know, should I drink or not, because I'm dehydrated? The doctor says, yeah, you should drink lots of fluids. The doctor in Bohol told him, don't drink anything. I rest my case. So, you know, you just have to be very, very careful. That's why I like Google. Me and Google solve a lot of things ourselves. We don't, you know, I trust the advice of Google than a lot of people these days on the medical circuit. Not all, but, you know, if you need a second opinion, if you're thinking that doesn't sound right, Google's always there. Anybody else want to throw anything into the mix? Cody Williams, about the property. One of the things I would look for is property that's already somebody needs to sell, because in the Philippines, it's all about debt. You know, if somebody needs to sell a property, you can get it at the right price. If you're interested in buying it and they're not selling it, then they'll bump the price up. The property I bought originally, I offered them 800,000, and we settled on 1.2 million. They originally wanted 2 million for it. The reason being is I knew they needed the money, and at the same time, I offered them a deal that the land was actually worth. It's worth over 3 million now, but at the same time, that's mainly because we've actually turned it from a derelict property into something that's actually got tenants in there. It's got rental potential. It's fully renovated and in a lot better condition. But at the same time, if we did nothing, I would still have made more money. But, you know, I'd probably have made 1 million pesos by doing absolutely nothing on it. There's always property in the Philippines which can be a good value. One of the things, like my mountain lot, we bought when we were first getting married. That's gone up in value, but at the same time, it's one of those locations that's difficult to sell because the road access is a big thing. In the Philippines, nobody likes to walk anywhere. So having something in the mountain, you go, well, it's going to take me 2 minutes to get a motorbike ride down to the main road. They're just like, not interested. But if it was actually along the main road, you could sell it all day long. So things like that you've got to look at. You probably find there's better investments in buying land where your partner is and simply just flipping it, just getting it paid for, getting the deed and everything. There is money in it. There really is money in it. I think there's a Phil Am that goes on about it. I think he does it with the rye fields, because you can end up with a lot of land for not a lot of money in the Philippines because people borrow money off you, and it can be quite risky. I'll be honest with you. The risks of people borrowing money is probably one of the biggest reasons that people end up in the ground. But at the same time, they can use collateral, and this is where some of this stuff comes from. You know, so if people borrow off you, they have to guarantee it with something, and often it's land. I mean, it's not too bad with OFWs, because the thing with OFWs, they're either going to want the land back or they're not coming back. You know, that's the way I look at it. But either way, you're probably going to get a good deal off it either way. Well, if nobody's got any other questions, I'm going to cut this one off because I'm struggling to talk now. My throat's gone. I've got a bit of sore throat tonight. I can hardly speak. But it's been great having you guys on here. Nice chatting. And I'll do another one. I'm going to start doing these a bit more regular, I think, because I prefer talking to you guys. You know, doing the videos is okay, but I actually prefer engaging with everybody and having a chat. Yeah, have an awesome night or day from Dave, Cody Williams. Yeah, you too, mate. It's 1 o'clock in the morning here. I just realised what time it is. Have a good one, everybody, and have a great day, great evening, great afternoon. Take care.